Hello, Thankful Thursday.
It's Thankful Thursday. This is Yoga to Transform, and I'm Audrey.
And I'm Christina.
And today we've got a book review for you, The Secret Power of Yoga.
And I loved this book.
So do I, but I also have to say that I haven't really finished it because I keep getting partway through and then there's sort of exercises to do at the end of each chapter and I get caught up in it, and then I go back and read some more of the same one, and I haven't really finished it.
Well, that's good. You're working through it at your own pace.
Oh yeah, that's good. Okay, work through it at your own pace.
Whereas I've kind of been like reading the things, going, oh yeah, do a brief thing and then keep moving. So
yeah. It's subtitled with A Woman's Guide to the Heart and Spirit of the Yoga Sutras. So there's probably a couple of things in there that we could probably talk about to start with.
Yeah.
So why do you think that Nischale Joy Devi has written it from a woman's perspective?
Wow, shall I try answering that?
Yeah, oh no, we're going to pass it over to you.
Write in the comments what you think, why she wrote it from a woman's perspective. But as a woman, I'm going to say that I have read quite a few versions of the Yoga Sutras. And I think I felt what her intention was when I was reading these sutras, which was actually to bring in that female perspective and also bring in the heart energy, which I think she said was one of the reasons that she did it, was writing it from the perspective of the woman, because all the other Yoga Sutras are written from a perspective of man.
Of a man, right. Which, you could kind of understand because the sort of the ancient history of how yoga came through and the way that we work through the sutras, which are sort of the guidelines for your life, have come down and been reinterpreted and rewritten by blokes. And who does yoga most around the world at the moment?
Women.
It's women. And so it's such a blessing to be able to read this from her perspective, because she is an exquisitely beautiful woman who has spent her life practicing yoga and learning, and my yoga studio, she is actually one of the gurus that my yoga studio looks up to. So it's such a lovely thing, and I was lucky enough to actually have a session where I could actually join with them live. I got incredibly early in the morning because it was in Texas, but it's such a blessing from a woman's perspective to read this with the idea that it's not all about don't do this and punish yourself if you do that, but more from a loving perspective of how you're approaching it from your heart.
Yeah, and approaching life from your heart. But I think Nischale makes the point that actually Indian yoga, because obviously the Yoga Sutras are interpretations or translations written by white men, so their perspective influences the way that they translate and interpret the sutras. Indian yoga combines the head and the heart. There's no separation, right? They live in this conjoined head and heart space, and it's only white people that kind of separate the two and kind of have said living from the head's way better. But as women, we innately live from the heart. So she's introduced that yogic kind of historical reintroduce the heart, but really embed it. And I'm getting teachings from Carlos Pineda at the moment, and he's all about anchoring into the heart too, because that's the philosophy of yoga.
That's right. So the heart and the spirit of the Yoga Sutras. So instead of taking that very almost authoritarian view of it from a head point of view, now we're saying, feel the pulsation of your heart, feel your consciousness resting in your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing I found when reading The Secret Power of Yoga is that, and maybe it's in the point in the evolution of my own yoga practice, is that I've read Patanjali's Yoga Sutras before, a few versions. But this was the first time that I really understood that breakdown that he was offering in terms of understanding that, pratyahara is about withdrawing your senses. So it's just preparing you for meditation, and you practice that first. So you practice closing your eyes and focusing on your breath first. And then you go into a deeper state, which is still not meditation. And then you get to meditation, and I really never was able to pick up, I guess that whole, now for the teaching of yoga, and then these are the practices, and this is what you do, and then this is the outcome, and all of that. I never really picked that up before. So I really was like, oh, okay, now I get it. So her way to language it and explain it landed better for me.
Yeah. And maybe that's the thing about why I haven't quite finished it yet, is that maybe my experience of the Yoga Sutras has not been for such a long time, and it's still quite new for me. So the idea of just working at my own pace from the beginning of the book is where I need to be. Because that's the thing, you can't be stressed about where you are, because where you are, where we are right now, here and now, is the perfect place that we're supposed to be.
Yes.
And so I really did, and I invite you to find it and pick it up for yourself, because I really did enjoy the practice and remember part. So say chapter 4 starts with practice and remember. Consciousness is elevated by abhyasa,
devoted practice.
And
Viagra,
which is remembering the self. And so she'll start off with where you're at, take you through the practices, and then give you some some tips. Wholehearted dedication develops a whole heart, which makes sense, doesn't it? Wholehearted develops a whole heart. And then experiencing the rhythm of your spiritual practice. What is the rhythm of your practice? And maybe, I'm not sure, have we done that one yet? No, it's later in the at the end of the year. We're going to be looking at what's your 5 a.m. routine. Do you have a 5 a.m. routine?
And how could that be part of your abhyasa, part of your spiritual practice? But what I really liked about this is that, so the Yoga Sutras are the treatise on how to practice yoga. And then he says, when you do all of these practices, here are the outcomes of the practices of yoga. So it talks about the siddhis or the superpowers that you might develop. And then the last book is, but that's not the point of practicing yoga. You don't practice yoga so you can develop all these extra supernatural powers. You practice yoga so that you can unite with divinity or higher consciousness. So the way that she explains her sutras, if I just kind of read it, I like the abhyasa one actually, because it was really, really good. Is nurtured, so abhyasa is nurtured by a sustained, steady rhythm and a dedicated heart. So it's saying your spiritual practice is nurtured by sustained, steady rhythm and a dedicated heart. So you really have to be having that devoted practice, and then devoted practice, abhyasa, cultivates the unfolding of consciousness. So it's explained in a way that I could go, oh, I understand that.
Maybe I wasn't understanding it because I had to reread it.
Yeah.
But it was still making sense to me, and it felt very nurturing, and
yeah, it really is very nurturing, and I think that that's the thing. So she does do a bit of so I think from a perspective of really wanting us to understand our own, because yoga is the practice of connecting with your own divinity, depending on the school of yoga that you come from, because we come from a non-dual school, which means that we are divine and everything is divine. And there are some schools that teach duality, which means that we are separate from the divine, and we need to kind of conquer our bodies to transcend our bodies and our human frailty, which is I think a very modern Christian kind of perspective of living, that says God is out there versus in here.
Yeah, that's right. So my teacher says we are divine beings having a human experience, so that it's joined.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's why it sits well within the Nischale's expertise, I suppose, because that's where she's coming from. She's saying, the practice of yoga is for you to realize your divinity.
Yeah, and that's what Patanjali was teaching, right? He took all of the things and said, this is how you achieve yoga, the state of yoga, and yoga is a state of union with the divine, right? And breaks it down step by step. First you do this, then you do this. You live in the yamas and the niyamas, and the gunas affect all of life, and it kind of everything that you need to know about the practice of yoga. That's why it starts with the first one, which is now for the teaching of yoga. Right? And then it's a really short book, the Yoga Sutras. There's not a lot to it in terms of if we go to the back, she's actually got the all of them here as this is the translation actually of her translation. That is the Yoga Sutras.
So there's only probably about, I don't know, 10 pages or something in there.
Yeah.
So it's just her amplifying it and giving the practices and some short meditations or some questions for you to develop your practice.
Yeah, and her interpretation of the 1.1, with humility, an open heart and mind, we embrace the sacred study of yoga. Yeah, so we start from that place, and then she says yoga is the uniting of consciousness in the heart. So beautiful. And then the whole basically 4 pages of just reading those sutras is enough to teach you the way for you to achieve Samadhi, which is living in pure bliss. Every single day. And sometimes, we all have a state of elevated joy or mystic experiences where you kind of, I don't know, see a light hitting a tree and you think, oh,
isn't that lovely?
Isn't that lovely? Or you feel elevated and taken to a different place. But the Yoga Sutras is the step-by-step process of getting you to living in that state every single day.
How amazing.
Yeah.
Take a read, get on the path, look at how your life will, how you can make a devoted practice in your life.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Let us know.
Yes.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and
share. Tell all your friends, and find us on our other social media channels. And we've got free ebooks on our website if you want to learn more. All right.
Yeah, nice to have you along. Thanks for coming.
Namaste.
Namaste.